Hi guys, I am back for another illuminating video. I want to talk about this movie called The Secret Invasion. This is on one of the paid networks, and I had started watching a little bit of it because I was curious to see what sort of things they were going to disclose in this movie. And of course, they tell us everything. Let's take this moment to think about this for a second. How is it that they're giving us these movies that are telling us truth and selling it as fiction, but we haven't really stopped to think that, is this the new method of having the stories told? Like in the days of old, the shaman of the tribe would hand down stories to the children and generations so that could be passed down from the elders of the tribe and down into the children, and the children could carry the narrative throughout time and tell it to their children. So are we just getting a narrative that is sold to us in a fictional format so that we won't really believe it? And that's really our fault if we don't believe it. But is based in truth and reality. I suspect that this is actually the reality of why they've been producing these movies. Now, if you represent the yin principle or the dark and deceptive side and aspect of this world, and you're not always straightforward, but you tell truth through different coded messages and like space is actually all around us, and then aliens, aliens are just different people from another country, all these different things that they come up with, that really can actually apply to another aspect that's already here that we already know about. Well, I believe that's what this side does. Is like all they can do is twist the truth. But since they are creating all these stories and they are the purveyors of their narrative because they're on top of the world right now and they have control of the media and all of the things that we see, out in the main construct of our world, they're pretty much running the show. So they get to dictate what it is that we see. And really, the reality is, if we don't believe it and take it as some sort of truth, then that's on us. You see how that works? So they can't be said that they are absolute liars because they've been putting it out in our face. But we're the ones who aren't paying attention, and we're the ones who aren't believing it because it is sold as entertainment. But that's our problem, not theirs. So they've been disclosing all kinds of things through their narration, and we haven't been getting it. And we're the ones who need to stop now and actually go back through a lot of these movies and start truly looking at what has been said. And especially if you're old enough to see some of the things that have come to fruition from their movies and then what's happened in the world, then you can start comparing and contrasting whatever the evidence is. So I wanted to just go over this because this is very telling that there is actually a secret invasion and that they're already here amongst us. Now, in the beginning, we see images of the world. And if you look closely into the details of this image that they have here, this is an image made by an artist that they hired for the movie. There is a being in the center of this that has a demonic type of grin on his face and quite resembles what's been spoken of as an archon. Now, of course, this is a little abstract, and it can be taken as anything, but it is a dark, cloudy figure, and like I said, it has a face. Or is this one of those, blot experiments, where you read into the image of the blot, the ink blot test? No, I don't think it's that. I think that they always put things in our face in a subtle manner, so that way, your mind is not going to capture this if this image is going by at a particular speed. But then some of the other images to follow, you have an eyeball and you have the colors of the world, but you always have this green, this sick green color that is, part of the artwork. So it just has this distorted kind of sick feeling to the emanations of this color. Now, this again, if you notice, this looks like a piece of abstract art, but it has an eyeball and it looks kind of like an elongated skull. And there's this wispy kind of smoke, entrail type smoke. I don't know what it is. There looks like there's some sort of ear thing over here. It's almost like a gill ear, but it has almost a mouth. But again, it's like fishy, but at the same time, it's like an archon. So I wanted to look on the internet too about what does an archon look like? Well, I found this very interesting because in this other website, which is UFO sightings hotspot.blogspot.com, they're using the same sickly green color. Is this, from the artist, did they rip off this site and decide to, make something, construct something of their own? Because if you look over here, look at what we have. We have some kind of thing. It's circular and it has what looks like an eyeball. And of course blackness surrounding it, but I don't know. Now, another thing, somebody saw some of these things up in the air. These little shaped things, they're almost like a donut with a tiny little hole. They have captured strange things like this flying through the air with different lenses and spectral photography type things. They've been finding all kinds of stuff that's kind of zooming around outside of our visual spectrum. And you guys can look that up online. But just in this little brief synopsis of this website, it says here, I'm just going to read a couple of the first paragraphs, then I'll scroll down. Robert M. Stanley and Laura Eisenhower, researcher and author of Robert Stanley, has advanced a multiversal hypothesis for the origin of archons in a universe. The archons are hidden negative controllers of humankind, inorganic interdimensional entities that must now be exposed and exorcised from the individual human mind, from our human species, and from the planet as a whole as part of our collective evolution to a new state of consciousness and well-being, basically. Now, scrolling down, we're going to go into this level 1, cosmological. In Gnostic cosmology, archons are a species of inorganic beings that emerged in the solar system prior to the formation of the Earth. They are cyborgs inhabiting the planetary system, exclusive of the Earth, Sun, and Moon, which is described as a virtual world. And they construct this by imitating the geometric forms emanated from the pleroma, the realm of the generators, the cosmic gods. The Gaia mythos describes how the archons were produced by fractal impact in the dense elementary field arrays of the galactic limbs when the Aeon Sophia plunged unilaterally from the galactic core. Now, I don't subscribe to a lot of that just because of what I research with alchemy and the stars and the elements and all that stuff. So they don't ever talk about things of this nature. This is kind of sci-fi, but you guys can take it for what it is. So level 2 is the noetic psychological aspect. And in Gnostic psychology, the noetic science of the mystery schools, archons are an alien force that intrudes subliminally upon the human mind and deviates our intelligence away from its proper and sane applications. They are not what makes us act inhumanely, for we all have the potential to go against our innate humanity, violating the truth in our hearts, but they make us play out inhumane behavior to weird and violent extremes. Now, this is what can keep you in your lower chakras. In the lower root chakra, where you're in survival mode, or you're fearful, or if you're over sexual, or if you're, doing things against your temple, which is your body, if you're constantly violating what would be natural laws and things, and you have addictions, I would look into this archon influence, because these things can put these subliminal messages in your mind. I have actually experienced them. I experienced them when I was working on this movie called Halt and Catch Fire. It was about the third season, I think, that I was there on set. And I was working on set and they had called lunch. We were in an office building on the 5th floor. And I always brought my lunch because I knew the importance of just bringing organic food because of the poison in the food, the GMOs and all this stuff. I never felt good when I ate the catering that they would offer. So I would just bring my lunch. And so I was walking through the video village, which is where all the directors, producers, and the main staff for the production have their monitors and all their personal items. And literally everybody leaves and drops all their personal belongings, purses, backpacks, wallets, whatever. They leave stuff behind when they go to lunch because you don't have to pay for anything. So you just go and eat, and then you come back to work after 45 minutes. Well, I'm walking through there and I'm thinking about what I brought, and I'm always thinking about, okay, I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna try to eat for only 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna lay down and take a nap. This is what's going through my head as I'm walking through this room. And as I'm walking through the room, I'm looking at different details of the room without really paying attention to what I'm looking at. You just kind of look at it and you're like, okay, I'm navigating through all of the things that are there. There's chairs, there's a little blacked out area where they have some of the monitors, and there's director's chairs. Well, there's a director's chair over to my right. And as I was scanning from left to right, my eyes went to the right, and all of a sudden this thought form comes in my mind. And it goes, you want to take that? Because there was a black backpack sitting on this black director's chair. And, when a thought comes in your mind that is not of your own conscience, you can pretty much tell. And this is why it's very important for us to start looking inwards to see where our thoughts are going, to see where our heart is. Because if your heart is dark, then obviously you are going to be influenced by these things. And that's why we're seeing all this criminality out in the world too. These people don't know themselves. They don't care about who they are. They don't care about being upstanding in honor and virtue and honesty and integrity. They don't care about those kinds of things because they are at the base root core of the lowest chakra that is in our body. And these things are feeding and having a good time on all of these people that are able to be ridden around upon. So when this thing spoke to me in my own mind, because it pretends to be your own thoughts, I actually I recognized it because I had already been reading about archons and different entities that can control your mind. And I was just getting into all this stuff. And this is probably in 2015 or 2016, something like that. So I immediately, when it said, you want to take that, and it was referring to the backpack that I was just glancing at for half a second, I immediately put my gaze forward and I spoke inwardly at this thing. And I was demanding it. I said, no, I don't. Get out of my head. And I was literally just fuming after that. I was like, oh my God, these things are real. I can't believe that thing just tried to influence me. That's one of those things that they talk about. And so I was able to recognize it because I was already in the film industry for how long? I mean, I am an upstanding citizen. I'm not going to take somebody's junk, especially in a job. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a crook. But at a job, really, where, it's obvious who could take materials. It's just ridiculous. I was like, this is nonsensical, but this is real. And that's why I implore people, please, look deeper into some of these hidden mysteries, because all of these things that are out here have some validity. Even the most obscure and seemingly remote events or subjects, they have validity somewhere because we are creator beings and we can create literally anything. And unconsciously, we can create other entities into our world. And so I suspect that a lot of this has something to do with that, as we have been given the gift of creation. Even when we're unconscious, we're creating something. So it's important for us to gain access to our subconscious mind and to redirect it, recontrol it, rein it in, and hone the focus That's why there's so much chaos out here, is because the mind is easily swayed by different things. If you can trick a mind into giving it up, like to be able to be captured and captivated by something, that's why we're going into this great deception with all of this, artificial intelligence and the holograms, and people are going to be mesmerized like it's some sort of fireworks show. They're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. And it is a trap. It is a lure for those people who have not grounded themselves in the foundation of this reality. They are going to be easily deceived and swayed by this dark technology. This dark technology is not of the light. This is what I'm going to stress and express continually on this channel, because there's natural laws in place, okay? But there's only one thing that will sustain us, and that is the natural world. If we continue to embrace a technology without the spiritual mind and responsibility, then this technology can absolutely be used to control us and to captivate us and just collect our consciousness. And that's what its true intention is right now. We do not have the spiritual upstanding to know how to use this technology properly, and nor is it in the proper hands right now to be used in an honorable manner. The dark forces have created all of this deception for us to be trapped in. The dark controllers own and control literally everything right now of the physical realm. They have all the corporations at their disposal. This includes rooters. I just came across a video today that actually BlackRock and Vanguard own rooters. So BlackRock owns Vanguard, okay? And Vanguard is like an overlay for rooters. What they've done is they've created all of these different tiers to try to hide the control system that they've created. And this is what we're finding in law and the UCC codes and all this stuff. Is like basically create different types of webs to weave and to hide information. The real information is raw and can be found in nature. Once you start with that as a ground force to build upon, then you have the spiritual awareness. You will start gaining that spiritual awareness via the natural laws of creation. And this can be found in the yin and yang, and start to look at everything with the eyes of yin and yang. When you do, you start to see truth, and you cannot be lied to at all. When you realize that we are in a construct that is made for our soul, you realize that NASA is the biggest lie there is, and that they are just part of this whole deception, that they're selling us truth through stories, but the stories are being sold as entertainment. And this is how it goes. They're perpetuating everything. All they can do is subvert and flip things and try to mangle them and spin them around to where it confuses us. But you cannot be confused once you ground yourself in the reality of this existence. And that is found in the natural, unmutable laws of the foundations of it. This is why everything else is just a story. And if you're following the story, you can be easily deceived and swayed off of your foundations. And I can't express that enough. But this whole Archon thing is absolutely real. And more people need to do their own research and investigations into it. And so let's continue to read just a little bit more of this, and then you guys can just go look at this on your own time. So the ontological status of the Archon is dual. They exist as an alien species independent of humankind. They exist as a presence in our minds, rather like a set of programs operating in our mental environment. The risk they pose by invading our mental software is far greater than any physical risk they might pose by erratically breaching the biosphere. Working through telepathy and suggestion, the Archons attempt to deviate us from our proper course of evolution. Their most successful technique is to use religious ideology to insinuate their way of thinking and, in effect, substitute their mindset for ours. The level 3 of sociological. In the Gnostic view of human society, the Archons are alien forces that act through authoritarian systems, including belief systems, in ways that cause human beings to turn against their innate potential and violate the symbiosis of nature. Gnostics taught that the archons exploit our tendency to let our mistakes go uncorrected. This is why virtue will bring you back home. It'll bring you back to your foundations of who you truly are and knowing yourself fully. So let me just finish out this sentence. Because the archons need human complicity to gain power over humankind, anyone who assists them can be considered a kind of archon or an accessory, basically, to their crimes. This is only one level of what we're dealing with in the world. So, I suggest that people learn more about all of these archons and then look inside yourself for any answers that might need to be revealed. You can ask your questions inwardly and find out if maybe you're under the influence of these things. Okay, now getting back to this movie, The Secret Invasion. Of course, you can see there is a cloud that's over the White House. And this green cloud is basically insinuating that it has taken over. You can even see some of the green coming into the White House itself. Now, this thing looks like it has a couple of different eyes. It even looks like what could be described as a mantis, but I'm not going to, suggest that too much because I've never seen one. I don't know anything about the mantis beings. I've heard about them. Don't know if they're real. Just take it in stride and put it in the data bank. So here we have two faces, and they are looking in opposite directions. This also would suggest the double head of Janus. If you guys aren't familiar with Janus, now I don't know the entire story, but to me, it also speaks the two-faced, like being two-faced. What does it mean to be two-faced? It means you're speaking one truth one way, and then you're speaking some other truth another way. And it's about deception. It's about trickery, usually, because you're trying to sway someone else, possibly, into your camp by pretending to be someone else. Or, there's many different theories behind how you can be two-faced, but usually you're deceptive. You're deceiving someone, especially yourself, by being this way. So that's what I take as far as the symbolism is for this, with these two opposing faces. They look pretty depressed too. So, I don't know what else to express about this image. And here we go. Look at this. Now, take into account, there's symbolism here for a reason. As you can see, there's a human hand. We see the flesh lives and the blood is flowing. And in the other, the left hand, is some sort of creature. And what is it? It's one of these things, this secret invasion thing that they're expressing in front of us. So they've made a deal, and we've heard about this in the past, where the men in positions of power have actually made contracts with these things that live underground. They call them space aliens, and it's not a complete untruth if you think of it in terms of Earth is space, and the aliens are from another country. They're from another land. They're from Earth because they're extra Terrans or terrestrials. So they're telling us everything, but we have to read deeper into the meanings of the words. And you can only do this if you go into etymology and you start truly teaching yourself some stuff. Now, here we go. This is obviously, I don't know if this is supposed to be Russia, but it's also the Tartarian buildings. And they're burning them down. You see this in the middle is like it's on fire. Or, it's implied that it's on fire because it's got red and it's got yellow. And they're burning the old world, burning the things that we used to have, the ways that we used to have. Then we have the policy pushers. You see these policy guys? They're like robots. They're like cyborgs. Do you see how they're spaced out and stuff? Because they are listening to authority, and they have no soul right now. They have no grounded, heart-centered truth inside. Most of them don't. They act like robotons, and they just do as they're told and blindly follow without questioning anything of the authoritarian rule over them. Yes, so that's part of their regime. That's why they're in this cloud too. It's kind of like the fog, if you've ever seen that movie, The Fog. Now, here we go. Here's one of them. This also looks like a Svaltafar. The Svaltafar is the dark elf from under the ground. They are probably, quite most likely, mutated humans that have gone dark. And I'm going to be playing some videos in a minute. I had heard years ago that human women, once they go underground, if they're there for a certain amount of time, they stop ovulating. They cannot breed. They need the sun and the moon. So what do? They take the DNA and they take the humans, they use them for their DNA and for whatever body parts and accessories that they can get from them. And they start making a lab to create their own clones, their own genetics, all of these things. They start manipulating us. Now, I do believe that these creatures were locked into the earth after or during the golden ages. Like at some point in our evolution of time, throughout the great wheel of time, I do sense that these things were locked by someone's consciousness or technology that they had available. They locked them in the ground, and they could not be freed except by a man and knowledge, someone who actually had knowledge. And I do suspect, and I'll continue to say this, that you can find those people in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to continue on that narrative because I'm telling you, the truth hits me like a bullet. And it goes, oh my gosh, I could shoot straight through this world like an arrow. It's what I came here for. It's part of my purpose. I know that people will think that I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, I'm pointing and aiming and gunning them down, because they have held all of the knowledge of all of this summoning of the jinn, which is the jinn are underground. They can, they're like elementals too. So there's different levels of jinn, just like there's different levels in humanity, where you have these tiers of authority and all this stuff. Well, there's different levels of jinn. And I'll do that in another video. I'll review all that in another video, because I've been digging more. I'm like, oh my God, whatever's inside of me knows the truth. And so I just want to share it with you guys. And it might not be your truth, but it's my truth. And I feel it to my core. And I just want to point some things out. And I know that, I'll probably never be famous for the things that I do, but it doesn't matter to me. I want to get out this whole thing and connect the dots for people to see, because of what I see from the position that I stand. And I know, who am I? I don't know, but I incarnated here for a reason, and I feel that reason. And catching up with the truth is like, I don't know, I can just connect all these dots. It's weird, but I was a seeress in another life. And that doesn't make me special. It just makes me aware of something else that I've experienced. Everything is locked in our DNA. And if you can access it, you can then gain more knowledge and awareness about yourself, who you are, what you came here to do, and all these other things, all these other abilities. You're like, oh my gosh, what else can I do? Well, you can manifest really, really well. And I'll tell you that because I can do this as well. Anyway, I digress. This is a Svaltafar, and I'll show you that too. Okay, so here we have some images of Svaltafar, okay? Svaltafar just means dark elf. And we're just going to click on one of these. Now, these are people's renderings and artwork and stuff. But you can find this in many different movies. You can find it in Lord of the Rings. You can find it in Harry Potter. You can find it in, different things where they show these types of beings, even vampire movies. Notice how the vampires always have pointed ears. They're telling us something. They're telling us so many things in movies, and we just don't listen. We don't have the mind to just be open and go, what do you mean? What do you mean a vampire comes from underground and looks like this? Well, because it's a Svaltafar. It's a dark elf, and dark elves live underground in the Norse cosmology of Yggdrasil. Yes, I do believe these things are real. I do. Svaltafar, Norse mythological dark folk. Secret archives of the Vatican. I believe this, guys. I believe this is the truth. And we need to know about these other beings that live beneath the ground. Then we have the Svaltafar among us. Look at them. What does this look like? How about the movie Eyes Wide Shut? Does it look familiar? The way these people look, wearing their robes, hiding behind masks, doing all these weird rituals and things. They are paganists. They produce paganism. And this is what the religions are all about too, but people don't know it. Here they are, wearing their cloaks, looking at the camera, looking at the viewer, going, we're amongst you. We're hiding. See our ears, our pointed ears, and our eerie, mysterious faces. Yep. Then here's one up close, looking sultry and somber, but also looking at you in an ominous manner. Like, if you mess with me, I'm going to mess you up. That's Svartalfar. And of course, you have these UFO-shaped clouds over the city. And what is this crazy, funky cloud that's down low? It's not even mist or fog. It's like alive. It's like the Blob. Remember that movie, The Blob, where it's green and it's this thing that takes over the city? They're telling us things, guys. Remember all your movies, because this is going to be your history lesson. Yep. The UFO, secret invasion. See, here's a UFO now. And look at the unnaturally long arms on this being. Interesting, right? Yeah. Now, here's part of the movie. They have a dead being. Now, they don't call them Svartalfar. They call them Skrulls. Skrulls. And this Skrull was killed by someone. But he's a Svartalfar. He's got the elf ears. And he's pale like a vampire. Guys, movies are telling us everything we need to know about what's actually happening. Here we go. Yes, Skrulls can shapeshift. Yes, they're looking for a new home. This is part of the script. So this is just a scene in there where he's talking about this dead thing that's on his floor. So they're coming above the ground. There's ominous music playing. Now, I took a screenshot of this because when I saw this ball, I was like, why is that ball colored like a rainbow? Let me show you something. I wanted to show you this world coin and how it has this digital eye. Now, let's go look at that ball again. Now, here we have this ball, and you can't really tell right at this moment, but this is going to be working with your subconscious mind, and it's a subliminal message. So I'm going to play a little bit of a clip from the movie so that you can see some things. Here we have that ball that the little girl's playing with. Look at this ball. Now look at these eyes, especially the logo. See this logo and the ball. Do you see how they help manifest the things that they desire through the subconscious mind of humans? Because humans can create. They cannot. This is why they use us to make their world happen. We have to come into our awareness of these types of things. So here's their version of the world. And you see how it's covered with blackness everywhere. If you actually took a map and marked out all the places and locations that have been taken over by this dark corruption that is now crept into all governments, this would overlay a lot of the countries. They have the Americas and then other countries, over in Europe and other places. But it looks like some sort of entity. Again, it's like, I don't know, it's like a morphogenetic type of entity thing. And it even almost looks like a Baphomet. It has like a little tail here with kind of a goat leg and then like goat arms. And, the head is kind of amorphous. So it's kind of hard to see, except the top up here could probably be like goat horns coming out the top. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much. It looks like something like a humanoid thing that's kind of flying almost like Superman. But at the same time, they know that they can rule through Capricorn. Here we have my favorite astrotheology chart. And on this map, because that's what this is a map of time, we are somewhere over here. And we are in the Iron Winter. You see this right here? It says iron, basically the Iron Age, where we're using all of this metal and all of this technology and all this junk. That's what this represents, is the Iron Age. And it's a dark winter. It's cold and it's going to be hard. It's going to be dark and it's going to be dead. And what are we doing? We're like ushering in artificial intelligence and all kinds of things. We are here on the cusp to go into Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. This is Saturn's symbol right here. It's actually upside down in this form. It's actually like an H that has this tiny little bit of a cross here. But it's also kind of like scythe for reaping the tares, reaping the wheat and the tares. Yeah, that's what this is all about. It's about separating the wheat from the tares. That's what this time represents. And all the ones who are unconscious, they're going to be the ones who get reharvested, replanted back into the soil, and then try to have another opportunity to establish themselves in the light. That's all this is. So there is no evil or good. This is all two aspects of the same thing. It is yin and yang right here. This yin and yang represents the masculine and feminine energies and darkness and light and the balance. You have to have both to maintain the balance. And that's the most important thing to really gain from this. So even in the challenges of your life, like we're experiencing right now, you will gain the most experience for your soul if you go through the most challenges. And I do believe that we are going into a golden spring that is probably going to last for, 20 years or so. And because this is all like cycles of swirling time. That's why it's called the world. WHIRLED, the world, not the WORLD. They use spelling to trick our minds, but listen to the sound frequencies of what the words are actually saying or expressing, and then really feel for the meaning, the context of it, because these are swirling energies and they're in a toroidal field. That's what they're learning about all atoms, is they're all little toroids. And toroids is also like Taurus, the toroidal field of energy. But yeah, we can just go in all day on all the symbolism here. But I do feel like they get to rule because Saturn rules Capricorn. Right here next to Aquarius, we go into Capricorn, which is why they have the Baphomet symbol. Okay, Baphomet is a goat and Capricorn is a goat, but he also has a serpent tail. The main one that we see here in the Western astrology, it usually has a serpent tail along with it, which would mean not only or imply that it's, under the ground or under the water because it's supposed to be a water serpent. It is an influence from that upon the earth. A goat is an earth creature, and then the water serpent lives in the ocean, quite possibly, or in the lakes. I do suggest, based on the feeling and notions that I get from all of this playing out, going into the past and feeling all the energies of the symbolism that's here, that this age of Capricorn is going to be the age of rise of the hybrid beings. They're going to be part human, part animal, and everything in between. Because as we go into this age, they've got to focus all that energy to try to trick us and trap us in their time construct, which is the boxes that we give our minds to. That's the black cube. It's the black mirror that you're sitting in front of watching this presentation right now. And the thing is, if you're aware of the contracts that your soul has in this lifetime and in other lifetimes to come, that everything you do has an effect on the future aspect of your incarnations. And all of that is just going to be based on your choices. Are you going to sign up your whole consciousness? You're going to sign it away and give it away to someone else's idea? Or are you going to grab a hold of it and go, no, 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 I'm going to start looking more into the things that I can actually do. I'm going to grab a hold of my own time, and I'm not going to play this construct game. I don't want to play the monetary game, the material world game. We need to know more about our spirit. So that's just my personal path. And I know there's others of you out there that are actually feeling that pull to, call to spirit as well. And so this is where we go. If we dive into the wheel of time, then we can start comprehending a lot of the things to come and what actually happened in the past. This is divining into the future of our lives and our world. Now, since this is a wheel of time, it can also express the different seasonal changes that we will be going through in smaller increments of time. Now, this is a 26,000 year cycle approximately, but as we are in this wheel that represents the different seasonal changes, we can actually find those expressions just in our daily lives, even when we go from season to season or hour to hour. You're also going to be influenced by these different energies. Each energy that's here, like one of these different astrological, what they call ages, are actually part of the hours that we go through as well. So this is really has a lot of deeper meaning than just this random wheel that seems obscure and like, encoded. This is everything about us. And if we start learning this and studying it more, then we can know all about the different things that are to come. You will find all this information in the stars. And the Veda astrology has more detailed information regarding the stars. But this one is for our seasons, the seasonal energies that we feel. And in that book, The Fourth Turning, this is what the guy is expressing. He's expressing that, hey, every 20 years, there's a seasonal change, like a spring and a summer and a fall and a winter. And he noticed this. So he's gaining the eyes of an alchemist. And the alchemist just means that you're noticing subtle changes in nature and comparing nature to yourself and the four elements and finding the four elements in literally every aspect of our world. That's your true awakening, when you can start comparing yourself to the natural world, looking inside and outside and going, okay, there's some true associations here, because man is the measure of the universe. Here we go. Here's an image for you. As above, so below. As within, so without. Man is the measure of the universe. Throughout all of the phases that can be found in the sky, in the celestial heavens, and all of the different aspects of alchemy that can be found outside the physical body, all of those aspects can be found inside the body as well. Here's the alchemical processes. The alchemical magnum opus was sometimes expressed as a series of chemical operations. In cases where these number 12, each could be assigned one of the zodiac signs as a form of cryptography. The following example can be found in Pernetti's Dictionnaire Mytho-Hermétique. So calcination is Aries, congelation, Taurus, fixation, Gemini, solution, Cancer, digestion, Leo, distillation, Virgo, sublimation, Libra, separation, Scorpio, ceration is Sagittarius, fermentation, Capricorn, multiplication, Aquarius, projection, Pisces. These are the 12 steps of alchemy. They can be found in the celestial heavens and inside of us. Okay, I'm just going to play some of this clip from Cloned Humans from Underground Bases of Illuminati.
Clones and AI. The human race has had our DNA manipulated, altered, and split in two to change our entire species' genetic makeup. Clones are a genetic creation that run on an artificial program, artificial intelligence. Clones, because of their genetically modified makeup, will suffer serious health conditions and neurological problems that eventually ends them. This is what I believe has happened to the Greys. I believe they found out that you cannot mesh a biological form with artificial intelligence and thrive. The only outcome is destruction. The high level science of genetics on planet Earth, meaning the dark forces working in their underground labs or dumps are and have been doing some extremely highly advanced cloning of our race for thousands of years. This very sinister program genetically modifies the human to work on a completely artificial frequency based solely on artificial intelligence. Very dangerous. This dark forces has been manufacturing clones of all sorts of people, politicians and celebrities, anyone who can be useful to replace and fulfill the agenda they want. These clones are controlled by a central AI that works with a transmitter that receives information through a chip, which is neurologically connected to their brain. This central AI controls these clones equally like as in a hive mind, which I've talked about before. These clones have memories and reactions downloaded into them based on the original person who they are cloning, meaning they study the original person whose mental profile they have downloaded into an advanced supercomputer and is implanted in their clone as a program. Hillary Clinton, Obama, these clones work through an AI signal. When the internal program in these clones do not give, let's say, the correct answer or the desired reaction, it can be accessed through that signal from a central AI computer. Although these clones do learn new things over time from experiences, but it's of a very limited nature. The signal that controls these clones is transmitted by the cell phone network and other high-energy transmitters that are placed at key points around the world. The signal is accessed and controlled by a supercomputer called Red Queen. There are other independently nodes, as they call them around the world, but these subordinate nodes are always coordinated by the Red Queen or Central. This AI of the Red Queen works independently, making its own decisions and acting without any control of a human being. This Red Queen has not only the clones under its control, but also extremely high-tech war robots, manufactured and unmanned drone aircraft, which is strongly armed. The Red Queen can also take control over any modern computerized vehicle, such as a car, airplane, ship, or submarine. These clones can be manufactured to be exactly the same as the original and can be modified according to their needs. These clones are not perfect and are plagued with problems. They can also make an artificial person that does not represent any real human, and that creation is made with the manufacturer's specifications according to their purpose and the task they will perform. These clones are high-level people, leaders of large companies, celebrities, politicians. When these clones are being harassed and suffering ridicule at the hands of an irate population, usually the original has already had the opportunity to flee. False flags and attacks are where clones are used. Clones also being created on a large scale to be used in satanic rituals to their archon gods. Celebrities, men and women, also are cloned equally and sold to the elites as the slaves and entertainment toys. These clones vary widely in pricing according to the perfection. Many of these clones sold for elites of the dark forces. Most of these clones are based on real people, and they retain part of their personalities, but they are downloaded with an extra program to make them more complacent. These clones tend to have serious neurological problems. The longer the gestation period, meaning the length of time given in their formation, the greater the total stability of the clones will be, which increases its price. The cheaper ones will only work well for a couple weeks. These cheap clones are the ones used in suicide missions and are often disposable for a single use. They have a very limited lifetime. The most expensive clones are those that take 3 to 5 months to be formed. The clones that are prices vary between $20,000 and $50,000, hence rising in price according to specifications. The most expensive ones exceed $500,000. All are available only to the elites, and the public remains completely ignorant of this issue. Most of the public does have knowledge of cloning animals, etc., but they are kept in the dark of how advanced this cloning process really is. If the original person does not obey the dark forces, wishes, and revolts against them, they will use their cloning, creating a remote torture situation that the original person will perceive and suffer greatly. But the clone is tortured instead of the original, all through AI signal. The creation of the clones in our current human society is very large and extensive, and it's progressively increasing and reaching levels of invasion. These clones are part of what they call unreal people of the Matrix. These clones are progressively leaking into the entire human society from the highest rungs down little by little as a silent invasion. This is the scary part for an everyday human. Today, any person in the public can be abducted by the dark forces in a traditional kidnapping or by a high-tech ship in the service of the dark forces generally, of the triangular type. If this person is of interest to them and being very influential to the masses, they will be cloned and eventually replaced by their clone. In many cases, only the people closest to that clone person will realize something strange has happened to them. So much of society is ignorant to the level of the cloning of the human race really is. This artificial creation of the human race is infiltrating all levels of society throughout the world. This invasion of artificial intelligence has a purpose for total planetary assimilation. Look what they're trying to do to the human race as far as programming us to be obedient little robots. It's all for the purpose of control. This invasion of AI is not of terrestrial origin and operates independently and does not need any operator or programmer. It has already achieved independence and the ability to be self-conscious, but lacks all empathy and is only interested in absolute power and control over all. We've all heard of the implementation of the chip to everyday human beings. They tell you it will make things easier and try to sell it as convenience. But what few people don't know is it's all to control your consciousness and behavior. This chip will manipulate your emotions and behavior with a signal received through that chip by a cellular frequency, which affects the brain. This signal or frequency can also send a secretion of psychotropic substances or nanobots into your bloodstream, making you obey this external controller. Besides manipulating the behavior of a specific individual, this signal can send a frequency to cause a disease such as cancer and even death. Refuse the chip at all costs. Modern smartphones are also being used for the purpose of the manipulation of behavior in the population by emitting specific frequencies that match the brainwaves of those within the radius of that frequency being sent. It causes changes to your behavior, moods, and neurological problems such as epilepsies and seizures. Keep them away from you as much as you can. Believe me, that's easier said than done. Specific frequencies are designed to affect the cerebral cortex in our brains. This technology is already being used on a large scale, transmitted from the towers. This technology is also being used on the battlefield. This use of weaponized frequency can modify the behavior of the enemy. It causes feelings of terror, and it implants ideas that they will take on as their own. It also causes them to feel doubt. Keep your frequency as high as possible to keep these negative events caused by negative frequencies from altering your experiences. These elites want to alter your consciousness through frequency. So by keeping a high vibration, a high state of awareness is your best bet.